Hello! Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, it's nice to meet you. I go by B, and if you are a returning viewer, then that is great. Glad to have you back. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into today's video. So today, I am going to be breaking down a handful of different genres, not necessarily all the genres, but as many as I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm going to be giving you a recommendation or two from each of those genres. This can be good if you are a new reader or if you are just someone who's looking to branch out to different genres, or if you just want to hear what other people think of the different genre breakdowns. My opinion probably differs from other people's. That's perfectly fine with me. So if you have a different take on what genre something is or the way a genre is defined, then please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on things. So we are going to start off with one of the most popular, most well-known, and probably most widely sold genres. Did you guess it? It is romance. And this is the romance book that I would recommend. It's a novel love story by Ashley Poston. I think that's how you say it. And I am not normally a romance reader. I don't typically like romances very much. I don't even like romance in regular books. It's just not really my style. But oh my goodness, I loved A Novel Love Story, and I now count it as one of my all-time favorite books. So before we get into that, I'm sure you all know what a romance genre is. There's many different subgenres of romance, many different breakdowns within that category. I'm not going to try to get into those. Like I said, I'm not a romance reader, and I don't really know all that much about it, so, go check out other people's videos. I'm sure there's plenty out there if you want a clearer breakdown of the different subcategories of romance genre. But basically, the general gist is often it's like a romance story. Two people fall in love, it's their experience, however the author chooses to put it out there. And yeah, I know it's a very vast genre with a lot of different little nuances and subcategories, but I don't know much about it. It's not my cup of tea. I'd never read a romance book, like a proper one. I read plenty of books with romance in them. It's hard to avoid in books. But I'd never read one that was classified as a romance book until a couple months ago, I think. I have a video of it on my channel. If you're interested, go find that. I kind of talk about what I thought of the two romance books I read. But then I had read those two romance books. Didn't, still wasn't convinced that I liked it much. But then I had a blind date with a book. I have a little short of that somewhere on my channel too. Go check it out. But it sounded like a fun book description, and I was like, sure, why not? So I'd seen this book before, probably would have never read it chose to buy it to read on my own, but it's what I got as a blind date with a book, and I am so glad I did. Basically, the main character, Eileen, who goes by Elsie, she is obsessed with romance novels, especially the Quixotic Falls series, and she's on a trip to a cabin for just a little break of small vacation, and she gets lost and her car breaks down, and she finds herself stranded in the town of her favorite romance series, and she meets all the characters, and she lives the life there for a little bit. But there's this one character that she can't quite place. He's the bookstore owner, and he's kind of grumpy, doesn't seem to like her much, and she's trying to figure out why she's there and who he is and just everything about it. I'm sure you can guess where that goes, but I'm not going to spoil it and say how the romance happens. But I love that book. As a obsessive reader, that is such a dream to find yourself in the midst of your favorite book series. I mean, maybe not for me, as many of my favorites are ones where people are being murdered or eaten, or lots of violence ensues. So I maybe wouldn't want to find myself in one of those books, but to find yourself in a book would be amazing. So I love that part of it. I love just the characters, and it was all so good. So if you are interested in checking out the romance genre, I really can't give you a lot of advice or information or opinions, but my one recommendation would definitely be A Novel Love Story. Go check that out. It is wonderful. And even if you're not a romance reader and want something where it's like a character finds himself living in their favorite book, that is a fantastic one. I absolutely loved it. Probably there's plenty of YouTube channels out there that could give you more clear romance recommendations if that's what you're looking for, but I don't really know. A similar genre is romantasy, which is a blending of romance and fantasy that has really become very popular. It encompasses a lot of books, and there's ones that are more romance versus ones that are more fantasy. I'm not a huge fan of this genre for the most part either, but it includes books like Powerless, Fourth Wing, The Cruel Prince, and of course, Throne of Glass, and also ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is written by the same author, which I have behind me here. But yeah, Throne of Glass is a fantastic series. It's a very long series, and this is the last book. It's 980 pages. So if you are not willing to read that much, maybe don't read this series. But like I said, Powerless is one, Fourth Wing is one, The Cruel Prince is one. I read all of those, and while I didn't love them, I would recommend all of them to someone who's looking for romantasy reads. Yeah, it's a blending of the romance genre and also the fantasy genre. Again, I'd imagine there's probably more specific categories of that, but I don't know that all that well either. I've only recently started to become a fan, so yeah. Again, I'm sure there's plenty of channels out there who talk about those stuff because it's a very popular genre, especially on Book Talk. You can go see my video talking about that. Yeah, then simply fantasy books. It's hard to distinguish the line between fantasy and other genres sometimes, because some people consider fantasy in another world, magic systems, mythical creatures, all that, and then some people are like anything with even a hint of magic and in Earth. So it's very complicated, but I would say that this is definitely a fantasy book. It is about a girl named Rose, who is the youngest of about 7 children, I believe. And one day a white bear comes to her home and says that she must come and live with him in his palace. In exchange, he will cure her older sister, who is very sick and close to death. And he takes her away to his palace. And it's, I suppose this could technically be romantasy as well, but it's not, again, I'm not an expert in any of this. Romance is not my style, but that's just kind of, yeah, none of this makes any sense, I'm sure. I ramble. I don't know really how to explain it or describe it. I'm not very clear on the specifics of those genres, but I'd say all those books are good, and I'd recommend them, and there's plenty of channels out there, so surely one of them talks about all that stuff. Okay, another genre is realistic fiction, which is different than nonfiction, because nonfiction is something that actually happened, whether that's a biography, autobiography. There's more, I'm sure, that I can't think of, but yeah, nonfiction is something that actually happened. Realistic fiction is something that could completely happen, but it has not happened. Or it's probably many people do have this experience, but it's not based off of that. It's something that could be true, but the specific story is not. So for this, I would recommend Girl in Pieces by Kathleen Glasgow. Now, I will say that this is a very heavy book, a lot of triggering topics, self-harm being a big one. But I liked it. It's very eye-opening. It is one of those books that really builds empathy, and it's just a good read. It's well written. It's painful and beautiful and powerful, and I can't recommend it enough if you're comfortable reading those things. The author Kathleen Glasgow also wrote The Glass Girl, which I have up here. That's a slightly lighter one, but also kind of heavy. All of her books tend to be heavy, but there are plenty of realistic fiction books that are not heavy. A Dog's Journey and A Dog's Purpose are also realistic fiction, I think. I don't know. I mean, I can't necessarily say what specifically they are, but I classify them as realistic fiction. And those are very good. They're not quite as heavy, although the dog does die many times. But that's just the thing. Another one. Yes, Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper is another realistic fiction book that is way less heavy, and I love it and highly recommend it. Okay, and then nonfiction. I've only ever read one nonfiction book, I Will Always Write Back, and I loved it. It was amazing. It is a true story. I'll read the back here for you because, again, I feel like if I tried to describe it in my own words, I'd just ramble on about it endlessly. It is that good. It started as an assignment. Everyone in Caitlin's class wrote to an unknown student in a distant place. Martin was lucky to even receive a pen pal letter. There were only 10 letters and 50 kids in his class, but he was the top student, so he got the first one. That letter was the beginning of a correspondence that spanned 6 years and changed 2 lives. In this compelling memoir, with an updated epilogue for this edition, Caitlin and Martin recount how they became best friends and better people through their long-distance exchange. It's an amazing book. It also builds empathy. Nonfiction, realistic fiction can both be really good for that. You should definitely read it. It's amazing. Like I said, I don't typically read nonfiction. I guess I have read a few other nonfiction books, but it's not really a genre that I'd seek out. But that book is amazing, and I find myself rereading it again and again. And I think it's one that everybody should read at some point because it's just an amazing story. Now, a bit more of the less realistic side of things. We have science fiction, which my personal recommendation from this genre would be Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Science fiction is usually the stuff that's like aliens or, like outer space, stuff like that could technically be true, or like really advanced technology, stuff that could technically be true but isn't really true for our time. It's like realistic fiction, but in the future. I guess that's the best way to put it. But it's a very interesting genre. Some older science fiction books are actually pretty accurate to modern day. Some stuff that was written in the mid-1900s, you can see parallels of stuff in our society that didn't exist at the time when that book was written, but now does in almost the exact same way, and it's just really cool. So science fiction can be a great read. I'm going to read the description of Skyward for you, because again, I will ramble about it. It's an amazing series. Spence's world has been under attack for decades. Now pilots are the heroes of what's left of the human race, and becoming one has always been Spence's dream. Since she was a little girl, she has imagined soaring skyward and proving her bravery. But her fate is intertwined with her father's, a pilot himself who was killed years ago when he abruptly deserted his team, leaving Spensa, the daughter of a coward, her chance of attending flight school slim to none. No one will let Spensa forget what her father did, yet fate works in mysterious ways. Flight school may be a long shot, but she's determined to fly. And an accidental discovery in a long-forgotten cavern might just provide her with a way to claim the stars. I found that at a Scholastic book fair when I was in middle school, and I picked it up not really expecting much, and for a few years it was like one of my favorite book series. I loved it so much. It was so great. So yeah, if you are looking into sci-fi, I'd say that's a good one. If you want a shorter book, Animorphs is also a great series. That's by K.A. Applegate. That was one of my first book series I've ever read. I think it was my first science fiction book series, and it's really great. I recommend it. it's good. Something that's kind of like science fiction but not quite is post-apocalyptic. So basically, the typical premise for a post-apocalyptic book is that the world was destroyed and there are a few survivors and they must find a way to not die, basically. Whether that's an alien invasion or natural disaster or something else like that. It's like the world's all gone to ruin and they have to find a way to not die and, keep their humanity intact oftentimes. It's not quite science fiction, but it's in a similar idea. My recommendation would be The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey. It is it bounces from multiple different perspectives, but the main character, like the main character, is this girl named Cassie for Cassiopeia, and she must find her little brother who's been separated from her and try to fight off the aliens who have all but destroyed the human race. I think that pretty much covers it. If you're interested, go look it up. It's a really good book. I've had to read the second and third one multiple times to understand what the heck happens because it's that crazy. But if you're interested in the thought-provoking and mind-twisting kind of stuff, it's really good. And post-apocalyptic books in general, I haven't read many, but they've always been very fascinating and they really make you think. Now, something that is kind of similar to post-apocalyptic books, but with a little bit of a different twist, would be dystopias. Yeah, you know them, you love them, dystopian fiction. Now, I'm not entirely clear on what makes post-apocalyptic books super different from dystopias. It's the same sort of idea, in the future, stuff happens, world's ruined, but with post-apocalyptic stuff, oftentimes it's like humanity must band together against an outside threat, and very few people are left, whereas with dystopias, it's like, it's divide and conquer, and then, the characters must band together to fight against an oppressive regime. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong. But, yeah. I think dystopias have gotten very popular recently, which I'm not going to speak on that, but I think that they're so interesting to read and so thought-provoking, and they can just be really good stuff to read. Yeah, my recommendation, well, first of all, I have so many recommendations with dystopians. I'm just gonna, quick rapid-fire name off a bunch, and yeah. First of all, we have The Hunger Games. Can never go wrong with The Hunger Games. It's a great book series. Divergent is also good. Don't watch the movies. They're nothing like the books. At least the second and third ones aren't. I'm trying to see my bookshelf because I have the one behind me and then I have one across the room. I'm trying to see. I think that's it over there. And then I have one over there. Yeah, there's so many more, but Matched also right there. That's really good too. But my personal recommendation for that would be Scythe. It is a bit less mainstream, not as well known. It's by Neal Shusterman, who, again, just check out any of his books. Literally, everything of his that I've ever read is so amazing. It's also good. Go read Neal Shusterman books. They all make you think and cry and laugh, and it is so beautiful. I love his books. But Scythe, again, I'm going to read the back description because otherwise I will ramble on about this for forever. It is so great. Okay. A world with no hunger, no disease, no war, no misery. Humanity has conquered all of those things and has even conquered death. Now scythes are the only ones who can end life, and they are commanded to do so in order to keep the size of the population under control. Citra and Rowan are chosen to apprentice to a scythe, a role that neither wants. These teens must master the art of taking life, knowing that the consequence of failure could mean losing their own. They learn living in a perfect world only comes with a heavy price. Yeah, it's not quite as much of a dystopia as some of the other ones I mentioned, but it is still very good and basically a dystopia, and it's just really interesting to read. Especially with the rise of AI, it kind of deals with that in some ways, although it paints it as a positive thing, I guess. But it's still an interesting read. And then we have murder mysteries. I absolutely love murder mysteries. They are one of my favorite genres as of the last couple months. And there are so many of those that I could name, and there's so many different subgenres. Some are more adults, some are more for teenagers. There's like mystery versus suspense versus like just straight up horror, just murder. It's nuanced. There's lots of different types, but my main recommendation for that would be The Island by Natasha Preston, or just anything by Natasha Preston. She's my favorite murder mystery author. I mean, I also really like Jennifer Lynn Barnes' The Naturals, but that's not quite murder mystery as much. But yeah, any Natasha Preston book is fantastic in my opinion. Some people disagree. I'm planning to do a video about that too, so if you want to know more about Natasha Preston's books and why I think they're good and why other people think they're not as good, go check that out whenever I post it here at some point, probably in a few days. But if you want something a bit more mainstream, a bit less, like, hit or miss, One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus is a fantastic read, and I'll just read the synopsis for that too. On Monday afternoon, 5 students at Bayview High walk into detention. Bronwyn, the brain, is Yale-bound and never breaks a rule. Addie, the beauty, is the picture-perfect homecoming princess. Nate, the criminal, is already on probation for dealing. Cooper, the athlete, is the all-star baseball pitcher. And Simon, the outcast, is the creator of Bayview High's notorious gossip app. Only Simon never makes it out of that classroom. Before the end of detention, Simon is dead. And according to investigators, his death was not an accident. On Monday, he died. But on Tuesday, he'd planned to post juicy reveals about all 4 of his high-profile classmates, which makes all 4 of them suspects in his murder. Or are they just the perfect patsies for a killer who's still on the loose? Everybody has secrets, right? What really matters is how far you would go to protect them. It's a good book. It was the first murder mystery book I ever read, and I love it. It's so good. It's a great trilogy, so that would be my recommendation. Now, I have 2 more genres here, but I would also say that there are classics, or like the stuff that you have to read in school, like Wuthering Heights, or Jane Austen books, or stuff like that. Charles Dickens, the classics. That's its own kind of genre, I think, but I don't have any of those. I don't really read any of those except for school sometimes. Yeah, I think I had to read a couple of those for English class in high school. Yeah, but that's a genre. Duh. But I have 2 more that are more my own classification. I don't know if they're, like, widely believed to be genres, if I'm the only person that, like, calls them what I call them, or if, like, other people have other names for them or what. But one of them is video game fiction, as I call it, because it's often, like, video gamey style, and that would be, like Ready Player One, or Deadly Pink, if you've ever heard of either of those, or, Dragon Ops by Mary Mancusi. Yeah, those would all be what I call, like, video game fiction, but my recommendation from that genre is Warcross by Mary Lou. Now, you probably would know Mary Lou from her dystopian series, Legend, which I was not a big fan of, but I love her series Warcross. It is such an interesting, it's just a duology, which means that there are 2 books in that series, and it is so good. I'll read the description from this too. Teen hacker Amika Chen works as a bounty hunter, tracking down Warcross players who bet on the game illegally. To earn some quick cash, Amika hacks into the game, only to accidentally glitch herself into the action and become an overnight sensation. When Amika gets a call from the game's creator, the young billionaire Hideo Tanaka, he makes her an offer she can't refuse. And suddenly, Amika's whisked off to Tokyo, into a world of fame and fortune. But the more time she spends with Hideo, the sooner the lines begin to blur between business and something more, pulling her deep into a sinister plot with major consequences for the entire Warcross Empire. So yeah, that's a good book. If you like video games, that can be a good place to start reading, where it's like very video game based. And then my last genre is, I call it mythology fiction. Percy Jackson. Amazing series. Go read it. No matter what genre you like, no matter how old or young you are, go read Percy Jackson. It is an amazing book series. I cannot recommend it enough. But it's basically, mythology fiction is like, you know, where it's based off of a mythology, like Arusha and the End of Time. Like, all the Rick Warren Presents books would be mythology fiction, and like there's probably other stuff that would be mythology fiction too. If it deals with like gods and goddesses from a certain culture, it's mythology fiction probably. If you don't know anything about Percy Jackson, go look it up and then go read it, because it will change your life. It's amazing. If this doesn't make you like books, I don't know what will. That's not true. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I think it's amazing, and everybody should read it at some point. Yeah, that's, you know, just a breakdown of all the genres I can think of. There's probably more that I did not cover, and there's plenty of books in each genre that I did not talk about. So if you want more in-depth stuff, go find other channels or, you know, something like that. And if you have any questions, comments, think I got something wrong, please let me know down in the comments. Yeah, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And, you know, thanks for sticking with me this long through all of my rambling. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, have a great day, and yeah, go reading.